Welcome back. Welcome in to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. I am your host. You got your boy, Blair Parks. And welcome back for those of you joining us previously. Welcome in to those of you tuning in for the first time to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, where I discuss, celebrate, and we honor all things college football, but with a special emphasis on the black and gold squads of the Missouri Tigers and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Thank you for being here. This is my midweek show. For upcoming is week 9 of college football. What a season we've already had. Can't wait for more. Super excited. So as I've been doing for the last couple weeks during my midweek show, I've got a few things, a few segments to present and share with you. Definitely going to do some updated storylines and headlines, some breaking news, some follow-up headlines and storylines from last week during the Week 8 midweek show. Then going to share with you my updated Heisman Trophy standings. As of now, who do I think is in, who's out, who are the next person or persons up in line. Then, as I love doing, I'm going to give you both my updated team and conference power rankings heading in to a pivotal week 9, which is going to be rivalry week. I'm so excited, so pumped up. And before I get officially started, I'd like to thank you once again for joining me. I really appreciate your support, your patronage, your time. All I ask, if you could, if you would like to continue to get the word out there to all black and gold fans and to every college football fan across this great nation, across the entire landscape, I ask if you could please like, share, subscribe, comment, let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's something that you would like me to discuss, if there's something that you would like to correct me on, call me out. Fine, I'm a big boy, I can take it. Or if there's just other concerns you have, I always invite you to please get involved. Let me know what you think. So without further ado, let's get into it for my midweek show entering week 9. So the first segment for you today are updated and new storylines and headlines and Maui Wowie. We have a bunch to share with you. Most of them are going to be updates from last week because a lot of things have materialized across the college football landscape during the last week. I want to start off today with conference expansion and realignment. As I previously shared with you, last week it was leaked or reported that the American Athletic Conference was looking to expand. If you recall, they're losing 3 of their teams to the newly formed, better than ever Big 12. At some point, we don't know yet the year, but UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston are leaving the American Athletic for the Big 12 because of the departures of Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC, to be determined as well as far as when competition begins with them in their new conference. So it was previously reported that the American was looking to add 6 potential teams from Conference USA. Those teams were identified to be UTSA, North Texas, Rice, Charlotte, Florida Atlantic, and UAB, University of Alabama, Birmingham. And some update on this. This is something that we are going to continue to see. And there are pros and cons of expansion and realignment, but the dominoes are going to keep falling. What I like to share with you, just breaking a couple hours ago in the morning, I had to update this, that you can now put it on the board. It is confirmed that those teams will be leaving the Conference USA for the American Athletic. It is happening. So Conference USA at this point is left a little wounded, potentially bleeding. But to make things worse, it is only getting worse down the line for Conference USA. So that's what's happening in the American, poaching 6 of Conference USA's teams. And it was reported last week that the Sun Belt Conference, which is a very excellent, good football conference at the non-Power 5 ranks, that they were reportedly looking to add 3 teams also from Conference USA, and also one from the FCS ranks, powerhouse James Madison, the Dukes. And those teams that they were looking to poach from Conference USA were Marshall, Southern Miss, and Old Dominion. And I can share with you just a few hours ago, off the news wire, it has been confirmed that 2 of those teams will be joining the Sun Belt. They are Southern Miss, the Eagles, and the Old Dominion Monarchs. They'll be heading to the Sun Belt, and the season to be determined as far as the year, but definitely will be happening sooner than later. And so now we wait to see on Marshall and FCS James Madison, but all reports are saying those 2 teams will accept, if officially invited, invitations to join the Sun Belt Conference. So, where does that leave everything? Well, I'll tell you. This is what happens when the so-called haves try to make their position stronger. This is what happened as soon as Oklahoma and Texas left for the SEC. This is what ultimately was going to happen. Sometimes these smaller schools, these smaller conferences, they are unfortunately the collateral damage. These are the ones who are caught up in this. And something that most people don't even take a second to think about as far as how it's going to affect them. So Conference USA, if they lose Marshall, which it definitely seems like they will, they are going to be left with 5 teams. They are an absolute purgatory. No one knows what's going to come of Conference USA. I mean, they are absolutely disappearing. They are collapsing right now in front of our very eyes. And I'm very concerned. I think they absolutely could become the next conference like the Big East recently, to go the way of the dodo and completely collapse. When the Big East went under, because they were heavily poached, some of their teams were poached to join the ACC, they disbanded but became the American Athletic, this kind of newly branded basically. So is that where Conference USA is going to end up? Rebranding? There's talk that they might add a couple of other FCS schools to join their conference. Maybe they could add a few independents that are currently remaining. Maybe the UConns, the UMasses, the Armies of the world. We don't know. But this team, this conference, I think will be disbanded. I mean, and I am very concerned, especially about 2 of the remaining teams of the 5 in Conference USA. 2 of these teams have fairly decent history on the gridiron, but absolutely have had great success on the hardwood, men's basketball. That's Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers, and the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders. What happens to them? And this is what I was referring to during the opening about collateral damage. Things that happen due to realignment and expansion that is never really reported or even thought about. These 2 schools with the other schools that are remaining, you're looking at potentially having generations of fans basically come to an end. What happens? Do they stay Division I? Do they become FCS schools themselves? We don't know. And it's really amazing to see the absolute flip of fortunes for the Sun Belt. About 10 years ago, the Sun Belt was seen as the lowercase, the low man on the totem pole, and teams were leaving the Sun Belt for Conference USA when the Big East collapsed. And 2 of those teams, ironically, that left the Sun Belt for Conference USA were, you guessed it, Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee State. So maybe there is some sort of vendetta going on. Maybe that's why the Sun Belt does not want to invite them back. I don't know these things, but it makes you wonder. I am just really concerned about Conference USA, and I definitely believe that there will be further pieces that will continue to drop, more dominoes will continue to fall for expansion and realignment. I mean, it makes me wonder, what if my team was a have-not? And I'm not saying Iowa is at the level of the haves. They're not Clemson or Alabama or Georgia, Notre Dame, Oklahoma. We're not. But what if I was a fan of a non-Power 5 lower conference team, or if I'm an alum? It makes you, right now, you are worried. You're on pins and needles just contemplating what is going to happen to my team. My fanhood right now basically is hanging in the balance. It is very depressing and worrisome when you think of it from that perspective, how easily it could be your team that you root for. So hopefully not, and hopefully things do get figured out for Conference USA. I do not want to see another conference be disbanded and end like what we saw in the old Big East. So as more things happen with conference realignment and expansion, I will absolutely share it with you. It's just chaos. It has been chaos both on the field this season and off the field with things like this. Each and every week, there is a new front page story that seems to be breaking each and every day. It's amazing what is happening right now in the college football landscape. So moving on, my next storyline and headline is it's breaking news, but also kind of expanding on news I shared with you last week. Speaking of the chaos, which, just to remind you, we've seen 52 teams lose who were ranked during this season. Week in and week out, we're seeing at least one top 10 team lose to an unranked opponent. Kind of scares me for this week because that could potentially be our Iowa Hawkeyes at Wisconsin, but we'll talk more about Week 9's games tomorrow during the Week 9 preview episode. So that's the kind of chaos we're having on the field, but with the expansion, with the transfer portal, NIL deals, all of this coming to fruition this season, and now the coaching carousel. It continues to spin on, but it is absolutely spinning out of control. This week at Texas Tech coach Matt Wells, after a fairly poor loss at home on Saturday against Kansas State, 25-24 was the final score. They did lead 14-0 at one point and 24-10 at halftime. Shutout, bad loss. Following that loss, Matt Wells was relieved his duties as Texas Tech head coach. So we have yet another coaching vacancy at a Power 5 school. That is 4 right now that we know of. And we haven't even reached Halloween. It is Halloween week. But still, I cannot believe that this is where we are. This man was 13-17 as the head coach, so not great. But they're 5-3 right now. They're 5-3. They have a winning record. The last 2 years, this was his 3rd year there at Lubbock. They had only won 4 games each year. So doing better, but yet they let him go. I don't understand what is going on in these rooms between ADs and presidents and boosters, fans. I don't understand these arguments, these discussions that are happening. So I'm going to do the best that I can to lay this out for you. This is what we're looking at right now. The 4 vacancies that we know for sure. We have USC, LSU, which are absolutely 2 blue blood programs, probably top 10 programs that I would say. I mean, I think they're absolutely 2 of the top 10 jobs in the country. And we also have one at Washington State. Last week, Nick Rolovich, coach, was dismissed. And now we have Texas Tech in the Big 12. But this is what we're looking at potentially. And I am going to bring back to kind of revisit. If you watched episode 2, earlier this year, my Crystal Ball Bold Predictions episode, I absolutely saw and forecasted some of this happening. So I'm going to present to you the best way that I can the coaching carousel that we are potentially going to see in the offseason. Actually, scratch that from record. It's not potentially, it will be. This will be a coaching carousel unlike nothing we have ever seen before and may ever see again in college football. So here's what we know. Like I said, those 4 Power 5 openings are open, and 2 of them are top 10 programs, in my opinion. But one of my crystal ball predictions, I did predict that Coach O would be out by the end of the season. So, boom, nailed that one. That's a direct hit. I also predicted that Clay Helton would be removed during the season. Boom, another direct hit, forecasted by this guy right here when I gazed into my crystal ball and told you what Madame Ruby sees. But I also predicted during crystal ball predictions that there would be openings at UCLA, Arizona State, Iowa State, and Nebraska, and those very much still could happen. I definitely think Nebraska will be open. Scott Frost, your time is done. Because there's an ongoing NCAA investigation there in Nebraska, such as also at Arizona State. I think Coach Herm Edwards will be released at the end of the season. UCLA, the coaching hot seat for Chip Kelly following last week's loss at home against Oregon. His seat is definitely getting hotter. And Iowa State, I think Matt Campbell, their excellent fast-rising coach, will take a job someplace else in the college football landscape or potentially the NFL. So I think the Iowa State job will be open as well. And this is other things that I want to present to you. This is the blue bloods that I think will be available during the offseason. USC and UCLA, like I said, we know those 2 top 10 programs, but I definitely think UCLA will be available. Penn State, James Franklin, folks, his time at Happy Valley is over. Definitely looks like his mind is elsewhere. They've lost 2 games in a row, that epic 9 overtime loss at home against Illinois. He definitely seems to be the first or second on both LSU and USC's wish list as their new coach. So I think the Penn State job will absolutely open up another blue blood top 10 program. And also Michigan. Right now, Michigan is off to a great start. They're undefeated, ranked in the top 10. Huge game this weekend when they travel to Little Brother for the Paul Bunyan Trophy against Michigan State. But if they fall flat down the stretch, Jim Harbaugh could still be dismissed, take another coaching job at the college level, or, hey, the Las Vegas Raiders position is open. Maybe he goes back to the NFL. So right there, we could have another blue blood program available in Michigan. It is absolutely amazing what we could see happen during the coaching carousel. So, and these are all some of these are hypothetical, okay? This is what I see. These are how many Power 5 schools I think are going to be available. And some of these are already confirmed. Some quite possibly will happen. Some very strongly can happen. Some we'll have to wait and see. But these are the openings I think we're going to see at the Power 5 level. Washington State, Texas Tech, Iowa State, Nebraska, Arizona State, Michigan State. Michigan State, Coach Mel Tucker has absolutely turned them around. He is absolutely high on the list at LSU. He has SEC ties. And by the way, once upon a time, LSU did poach a former Michigan State coach to come down to the Bayou. Overall did pretty good. He did win them a national title. I think his name was Nick Saban. Maybe you heard of him, maybe you haven't. So I think Michigan State could also be available. I think Virginia Tech will absolutely be open. I think Justin Fuente's time in Blacksburg is over and done with. His seat is on fire. They're at Virginia Tech. Miami, Coach Manny Diaz, this season has gone completely south in South Beach. He might be released of his coaching duties. Syracuse, I think Dino Babers will also be out as coach of the Orange. And Mississippi State. Here's why. Is there a potential that Mike Leach could leave Mississippi State to return back to Texas Tech, the only coach that really took them to new heights in their program's history? Absolutely, that could happen. So there will be many, and I mean many more Power 5 openings that will become vacant. I mean, this is historic what we're going to see, the musical chairs of the coaching carousel. At the non-Power 5 level, I definitely think Luke Fickell will go to a bigger time job. The Cincinnati head coaching job will be open. That's a high-profile non-Power 5 availability. I also think potentially Notre Dame, Brian Kelly could end up at USC. That's a lot of the talk right now. He could maybe go someplace else. So another blue blood could be available in Notre Dame. BYU, Coach Satake, excellent run there at BYU. I think he's due for something bigger and better, a Power 5 job. So I think the BYU job could also be available. And maybe even SMU. SMU right now is undefeated, highly ranked. Sonny Dykes is a coach that's been well-traveled, has a genius offensive mind. I think he absolutely will end up someplace, probably at the Power 5 level following this season. So we're going to have multiple, and I mean multiple vacancies come available. Maybe even I'll get in on some of the applications. Who knows? But it's absolutely awesome just to predict what we're going to see during the offseason in the coaching carousel. I mean, prepare yourselves. Hold on to your butts. It's going to get interesting. So that's what I wanted to share with you for the coaching carousel. There are also a couple of other crystal ball predictions that I made that have already come to fruition that have been direct hits. For example, I did predict that a former assistant coach of Nick Saban, this would finally be the year that he would suffer a loss to one of them. That did happen by Jimbo Fisher for Texas A&M in College Station. Got that prediction right. Also, I predicted that these 5 teams would begin the season ranked, but end the season unranked. And those teams, they were Florida, Indiana, Iowa, Texas, and Arizona State. Right now, 4 of those 5 are absolutely sitting there unranked. The only one that is still in the rankings is our Iowa Hawkeyes. So I don't mind being wrong about this one, but I'm okay being right. And quite frankly, if I get 4 out of 5 right, let's consider that a direct hit, because that's pretty good. So right now, a lot of my predictions are looking very good. I mean, I'm sitting pretty right now in the world of my crystal ball predictions and my fortune telling and my gazing. But yep, so that's where I'm at. Last 2 storylines and headlines to share with you. As I do, I love giving shout outs to the non-rev sports at Missouri and Iowa. Share with you during this past week. The Iowa women's, the stud guard that we have, sophomore Caitlin Clark. If you don't know about her, you should. Absolutely one of, if not the best player in all of college women's basketball. Check it out. She was named a preseason All-American on the first team All-American ballot. Well done, Caitlin, and we look forward to you this season on the hardwood. The Iowa women come in ranked number 9 in the country, and a lot of that is because of the presence of Caitlin Clark. And the other thing, the Iowa wrestling squad, the defending NCAA Division I champion matters of the Iowa Hawkeyes. They won another wrestling title last season. They will be entering this season ranked number 1. And currently still, the women's field hockey team ranked number 1, undefeated. They wrap up their regular season this weekend against Ohio State. Go ladies, go gentlemen, make us proud. So that is the updated storylines and headlines for my midweek show. Next segment I want to share with you is my updated Heisman Trophy race and standings. My finalists as of today, I have 4 that would be in. Alabama quarterback Bryce Young, Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud, Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral, and he right now to me is my favorite. He's my odds-on favorite to win the hardware, to take it home. I think he is the best player, most valuable player to his team, absolutely. But right now it seems to be a 3-horse race. Those 3 quarterbacks, it's probably going to be one of those 3. But the other one that I would have as a finalist today is Michigan State running back Kenneth Walker III. And we'll see how he fares this weekend. Playing Michigan, which, folks, cat's out of the bag, spoiler alert, that'll be my spotlight game of the week during tomorrow's Week 9 preview show. They face off with Big Brother Michigan, top 10 matchup, to where if Kenneth Walker III has another big day rushing on the ground against a better defense, and Michigan, they really haven't played upper echelon opponents quite yet, has Michigan State. But if he's able to rush for 150, 200 yards against Michigan, and they get the victory, he gets a couple rushing touchdowns, I absolutely think he will get more Heisman love from the actual press and the voters. And my next 2 men up, these are the next 2 who are waiting to get into the Heisman Trophy race. Pitt quarterback Kenny Pickett, I've talked about him, his numbers, 23-21 ratio, touchdown to interceptions. Pitt is highly ranked. Looks like it's going to come down to either them or Wake Forest in the ACC for the ACC crown. I expect him, if he keeps it up, to get himself in the Heisman Trophy talk officially. And also Ohio State wide receiver Chris Olave. Quarterback C.J. Stroud absolutely is in the discussion, but his primary weapon has been this big play stud receiver. I think he will probably be the first receiver picked in the upcoming NFL draft in the spring. So that's my updated Heisman Trophy candidates, race, and finalists for heading into Week 9. Let me know if you agree, disagree. If there's somebody that I'm missing from the list, let me know. Now, the next thing I like to share with you, as I do every midweek show, this is my favorite time of the midweek shows, when I unveil to you my updated team and conference power rankings. This week, let's start with the team power rankings as the norm. And we definitely do have a lot of movement from last week's team power rankings. At this point, I need to start giving more leeway and the benefit of the doubt to the teams that are undefeated. I mean, I watch the games just like you do. The eye test is always something that I need to take into account. But where we are more than halfway through the season, entering Week 9, that I have to give a little bit more props to the teams who are still undefeated. And if they're legitimate, they will continue to be undefeated and either stay or rise on my current list of my power rankings. So let's get right into it. Let me get a quick swig of water. So let's get into team power rankings entering Week 9. Number 1, been there, camped out for a while, is the Georgia Bulldogs. Number 2, ranked number 2 also in the AP poll, I've got the Cincinnati Bearcats. Yeah, they squeaked out a win over the weekend against Navy, but still, you're undefeated. You're taking care of business. I'm not going to punish you for it. Number 3, we have a big mover this week. I have the Michigan Wolverines at number 3. They're undefeated, ranked, I believe, number 6 in the AP poll. I have them up 4 spots from last week, even though, they did dispatch a Northwestern squad, a hapless Northwestern squad, but it was very impressive over the weekend. So they're sitting good. And if they're able to hold serve and take care of Michigan State this coming week, which is the first major obstacle, then they're definitely going to show me more. I'm not quite sold on them yet, but I'm going to reward a team that is sitting there undefeated, highly ranked in the AP poll as well. Number 4, down 1 spot. They did win, but they looked incredibly pedestrian. and they were shut out in the first half by Kansas, the vaunted Kansas defense. I've got dropping a spot this week at number 4, the Oklahoma Sooners. Yes, they are undefeated. I'm not being a hypocrite from what I just said about rewarding the undefeated teams, but we've seen this several times from this Oklahoma squad. They are playing with fire. It's only a matter of time to where they're going to cost themselves a victory, maybe even 2. So I have them down 1 spot. Number 5, also down a spot from last week, is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Yes, they won. They put up a 52 spot on Tennessee. And if you just woke up Sunday morning and saw that score, you would think what most people think. Oh, that was an easy victory. It was dominance by Alabama, but it absolutely wasn't. I watched the majority of that game. That was a contested game through 3 quarters. It was at the end of 3 quarters, it was a 2-possession game. It was back and forth between Tennessee and Alabama. So even though they won, they didn't look all that impressive. Okay, so that's why I have them down a spot, number 5 this week. Number 6, also down a spot. I mean, they took care of business. They absolutely broke open a can of you-know-what on Indiana in Bloomington. I've got the Ohio State Buckeyes, number 6. Number 7, up 2 spots. They did win. Tough road environment. They almost let UCLA come all the way back and take victory from their hands, but they won 34-31. Late, I've got the Oregon Ducks moving up. Not a bad victory on the road. Tough environment at the Rose Bowl. Game day was there. Big moment for UCLA, and Oregon took care of business. So I've got Oregon up 2 spots at number 7. Number 8, up 3 spots. Now, they were on the bye last week, but once again, undefeated. I don't really necessarily know what to think about them yet, but they've got a good opportunity to show me Saturday against their in-state rival. I've got at the 8th spot up 3 spots at number 8, the Michigan State Spartans. I just don't know how good Sparty is. This is a huge show-me game on Saturday. Number 9, making their initial appearance on my team power rankings, have kind of been slowly gaining momentum, climbing the rankings. I've got at number 9, the Ole Miss Rebels, primarily because of Matt Corral. So let's see how they do. They have a huge game this weekend. They travel to highly ranked Auburn, big-time game in the SEC West. Now behind them at number 10, where they were last week, I have the Iowa Hawkeyes. They were on the bye. Huge game Saturday in Madison, Wisconsin for rivalry week. It's going to be a huge potential winner-take-all for the Big Ten West race. Tune in for more on that game tomorrow. But I've got Iowa number 10 because, quite frankly, after the Purdue showing, I don't know if they're potentially a legitimate top 10 team or not. Their offense looked horrid. Defense finally looked a little bit susceptible. So we'll have to wait and see what they did. Did they fix the issues during the bye week? But I've got the Hawkeyes at number 10. Number 11, up 1 spot. Now, I really want to move these guys higher up. But if you give up 56 points to Army, I'm sorry, I can't bump you ahead of Iowa into the top 10. I've got up 1 spot to number 11, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. They put on, it was a massive offensive shootout Saturday at West Point. They got the win 70-56. Only had the ball for 17 minutes of possession time. Folks, I did the math. That is 4.1 points per minute is what they averaged. So giving up 56 points, I can't move you up anymore. I just can't. I don't quite know how good this Wake Forest squad is. So I have them number 11. And number 12, falling 4 spots. They lost at Ames, a game I called. I predicted Iowa State would take care of business. I have the Oklahoma State Cowboys still on my power rankings list because watching this team, their defense is very solid. And offensively, they do things very clean. They don't hurt themselves. I think this team is still right there in the Big 12 race, as is Iowa State and Baylor. Those three teams are right there nipping at the heels of Oklahoma. So I still have Oklahoma State in my 12. Every week I give you my top 10 plus 2. So at the 12 spot, down 4 spots, are the Oklahoma State Cowboys. So that's my updated team power rankings entering week 9. As I said, feel free, comment. Let me know you agree, disagree. Is somebody too high? Is somebody too low? Who am I forgetting? Who should be there? The only team that completely dropped out was Penn State, deservedly so, with that awful loss, probably one of if not the worst loss during the James Franklin era at Penn State at home against Illinois. And I don't remember if I said this or not during the Week 8 review show on Monday, but this whole argument that Iowa got lucky, they backdoor into the victory over Penn State because Sean Clifford got hurt, was knocked out. Well, quite frankly, that argument is over. You didn't really have a lot of solid ground to stand on anyway, because guess what? You lost to Illinois, and Sean Clifford started and played the whole game, and you looked abysmal. So Iowa is the better team. Just accept it. Let's move on. Kumbaya. Peace, love. Ended. All right. So my final segment for today to share with you is my updated conference power rankings heading into week 9. And this week it's Halloween. I've got to do some sort of Halloween theme. So what I chose to do, I am going to give you where I believe the conferences are based on their standing and prestige. And the theme around this week is going to be Halloween horror movie characters. Some of the classic characters. I mean, I am an absolute fan of the classic slasher movies, of the horror flicks of past from my childhood when I was a young man. So that's going to be today's theme, horror movie characters and horror movie franchises. So before I describe what character or franchise they are, let me give you 1 through 5 the order. And we do have a little bit of movement from last week's conference power rankings, occupying the 1 spot. Last week I had the Big Ten just slightly ahead of the SEC, but following the Iowa loss 2 weeks ago to Purdue, and over the weekend, 2 ranked teams lost from the Big Ten. Number 25, Purdue, does what Purdue does after scoring a huge signature win over somebody, this time at the behest of my Iowa Hawkeyes. They get themselves ranked for the first time since 2007, but they can't sustain success. They lose at home to Wisconsin. And also the aforementioned dreadful loss, the nightmare of a loss, during Halloween week by Penn State against Illinois. Big Ten, you are no longer leading the conference power rankings. You drop, reclaiming the 1 spot. I have the SEC. Number 2, they have fallen slightly behind. Once again, I do have the aforementioned Big Ten Conference. You're in the 2 hole. In the 3 hole, no movement for the last few weeks. I have the Big 12. 4th, kind of been status quo for the last few weeks from here out. The 4th spot, I have the Pac-12. And bringing up the rear, I have the ACC. So that is my standings 1 through 5. Now let me unveil what horror movie character or movie franchise each one represents or is. Let me get a quick swig. So the SEC, guys like us, the Big Ten, the other Power 5 conferences, during the day, we are dreaming. We think that we're in the lead. We are finally going to answer the bell, knock you off the big dog from your pedestal. We'll bring home the Dr. Pepper national title trophy. It'll come back to the Big Ten or to the Big 12, Pac-12 or ACC. We're feeling good during the daylight, but then night, while we sleep, SEC, you haunt us, you visit us one by one, you take the conferences, you take us, you kidnap us, take us to the basement, line us up to be disintegrated in the boiler room, so you will all continue to haunt our dreams and our nightmares. SEC, you are Freddy Krueger from the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Big Ten, it is going to come down to who is left standing. 2 weeks ago, we had 5 teams in the top 10 for the first time ever in the AP poll history of the AP. Now this week we have 4 huge matchups coming up during week 9, which will give us more separation. Who will be the top dogs remaining? Who are the legitimate contenders? All of them are intertwined. They have some sort of connection. Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Michigan State, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota. It comes down to the last man standing. They are being slashed and gashed one at a time by one of us. Somebody who knows the truth is hunting us one at a time, erasing us from competition. Big Ten, you are Ghostface from the Scream franchise. Number 3, the Big 12. Your best playoff potential is Oklahoma, but right now you are keeping other teams right in the mix because you continue to not put them away. Other teams are rising and dropping. It's basically a cat and mouse game. Oklahoma at top. They're the ones setting the games. They're the ones who are the judges. They're watching. We have Iowa State, Baylor, Oklahoma State. Which one will outlast the other? Rising and climbing the ladder of chaos. But Oklahoma, keeping them around, will it ultimately cost you a college football playoff berth if they beat you? Because after all you want to do, Oklahoma, you want to play a game. You are Jigsaw from the Saw franchise. That is you, Big 12. Pac-12. Whew. Right now, after early season success, the only possible playoff team you have left is Oregon. Will they be able to win the Pac-12 title game, sit there at 12-1? Will they be able to stay and hop into the limelight? Will they step into the light? Will they run into the light? Will you do it? Can you come back from the netherworld, from purgatory to the college football landscape and world? You are Carol Ann from Poltergeist. You have exorcised the demons. This house is clean. Love that. Pac-12, you're Carol Ann. And lastly, the ACC. You have been forged and knocked down. You are now permanent members of the underworld. You reign in hell. Once upon a time, you were top dog. Recently, you've had multiple championships from your top dog, Clemson. Right now, your last college football hopes, they reside with Wake Forest or Pittsburgh. Those are the most unlikely teams to take home the ACC championship hardware. They're your only 2 teams right now that are ranked, also in the AP poll. So you reign and look above from hell. So ACC, you're bringing up the rear. You're going to need a miracle, divine intervention to make the college football playoff, even if Wake and Pittsburgh win out. So you rule from hell. You are Pinhead from Hellraiser, because ACC, your suffering will be legendary, even in hell. There you have it, folks. There's my Halloween movie character, movie themes for the conference power rankings entering week 9. What a fun show I had today. Thank you once again for your time, your support. Thank you for everything. It's much appreciated. I love doing this with you each and every week. Please, I ask, if you like what you're seeing, what you're hearing, like, share, subscribe. Let's get the word out there. Let's continue to get the ball rolling. Let's expand the black and gold universe. Until tomorrow, tune in. It is tomorrow, late afternoon, late morning. Expect the Week 9 preview show to be up and loaded on the channel. Until then, take care of yourself, and thank you for being here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.